in this agreement, I think that we have been rather successful in that, since this will be more or lower price for the goods, for the services, for the consumers. That's something that's very attractive, of course, because then we can increase our respective trade, and that will also give a lot more job opportunities. On the other hand, we know that we have many small companies, from the Swedish point of view, many innovative companies. As we also have mentioned here, we spend more than 3% of our GDP to R&D, Korea up to 5%, which means then that we're very much oriented to technical solutions, to research and development. For South Korea, if we start there, it's the European Union's 12th largest trade partner, and for Korea, the second largest. In Korea, it's a population of 49 million people, and the internal market, as we say, for the European Union consists of 500 million people. So to start with, that's a huge potential. Both of us are very much export-oriented, since Korean exports consist of or represent 40% of the GDP, and concerning European Union, it's the first world exporter and importer, and consists of 17% of global trade. Normally, when we have free trade negotiations, it takes many years. We have several examples of that within other negotiations. But at this time, it was very smooth and efficient. Started in reality in 2007 and finalized completely then in 2010 with 8 rounds of negotiations. And I think that both parts are satisfied, since it is a win-win situation, and will facilitate a lot for the most important goods, services and technology.
EU is the biggest market of the world and the second largest trading partner to Korea. And the population, as Minister already mentioned, 500 million population with more than $17 trillion of the GDP of 27 members, European Union members. And in addition to the trade between Korea and EU, the EU is the biggest investor in Korean markets. The total combined investment of stocks by EU in Korean market is more than 60 billion US dollars. And in return, the Korea's investment to European Union countries is an increasing trend in the recent years. I would like to highlight the significance of the Korea-EU FTA. In terms of the substance, the Korea-EU FTA is the high-quality agreement covering a comprehensive sectors.
Let me just mention a few things that the business community can benefit from this historic agreement. And first one is I like to suggest in the area of technology. As you may know, Korean economy drives on new technology. Korea belongs to the top 5 spenders on R&D in terms of absolute amount, and also in terms of percentage of GDP. Together with Sweden, Korea belongs to the top 5. And Korean economy, Korea bets its future on new technology, new industries. And currently, Korea spends about 3.6% of her GDP on R&D, 70% of that by the private sector, and 30% by the government. And I know Sweden very strong in R&D in some sectors. And in Korea, Korea bets its future on new technology, new industries. And currently, Korea spends about 3.6% of her GDP on R&D, 70% of that by the private sector, and 30% by the government. And I know Sweden very strong in R&D in some sectors. In 70% And this is one area I think both countries, in particular Sweden, but also the EU and Korea, can cooperate because of the free trade in the coming years. That can facilitate, I think, the various joint R&D efforts.
I'm covering Japan as well, and I know for a fact that this free trade agreement is stressing a lot of people in Japan right now. And my opinion is that this is a way that Korea is leading the way, not only in products. It's now leading in a kind of new behavior where Korea shows another self-confidence than maybe other countries do in Asia right now. And it will definitely lead to a speeding up towards similar agreements in this region in the future that will lead to more a transparent and competitive Asian market where we can compete on other premises than we do today. So on your question, yes, you will be the role model for this region for quite some time right now. Swedish Trade Council's job is to promote and actively support Swedish companies to grow on foreign markets. Therefore, we are of course very happy with the free trade agreement because this will make our job easier in the future. The Swedish export to Korea has been growing with a cumulated average growth rate of approximately 6 to 7% since 2005. 2009 was a tough year for us as well, but during 2010 we have seen really good rebounds, and we have noticed a 15 to 20% increase in comparison to 2009. Korea is Sweden's 25th largest trading partner globally and the 4th in Asia after China, Japan and India. But in comparison to what industries that are actually in here Korea, you're leading the development within ICT, shipping, automotive. We have much more growth potential. And we also see a great interest within sectors like medtech, environmental technology and consumer retail. Many studies have indicated great effects of the FTA. But how will the FTA affect Swedish exports to Korea? That was the main question that we asked ourselves when we initiated a study that was finalized last week. We have now really good indications of a growth potential of between 60 to 80%. If you apply those figures to numbers, it would be approximately 650 to 900 million US dollar. If we should mention some sectors, we see strong growth potentials within, for example, motor vehicle and parts, manufacturing, metals, but also machinery. All of these sectors we see a growth potential of at least 60%, and some of them has a potential of over 100%.
I can be maybe more precise when it comes to Sweden now, but the Swedish export, we are an export-driven economy in Sweden. More than 50% of the GDP is export, and it's very important that we keep that for running the country. 70% of our export basically is to European Union. And you know also that European Union is of course a huge market when you're not there, but the really growth outside for us is in Asia. And Korea is a very interesting country with a tremendous growth figure. And to have a free trade agreement with Korea will help the Swedish companies to do even better business there, and of course vice versa.